Hi, welcome to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. I am your host, Meredith Brough. I'm a wife, a mother of 5, a childcare expert, and a sleep coach. I'm here to teach you the most effective sleep advice for infants and young children. With my guidance, sleep will become something that you look forward to again, and you will feel rested. I believe that motherhood is the most important and demanding role that we have, but the challenges and accomplishments that go along with it go unnoticed frequently. We are going to talk openly about these things so that we can draw strength and compassion from each other. I will share my perspective as a seasoned mother and help you experience more fulfillment. Hi, welcome to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. I'm your host, Meredith Brough, and I am a sleep coach, mother of 5, childcare expert, and a mentor to moms. So today we're going to talk about something really important. It's security, teaching security to babies, toddlers, and children. And this is a really, really important part of my work. In the past, we've talked about other things that were really important. We started out with my first episode being about your intuition and how important that is to tune into. The next lesson was about how common natural sleep disruptions are and how to respond in those situations, how real they are, how miserable they are, with some survival tips for you. The third podcast episode that I made was about building sleep habits using my approach, which, just to highlight a few things, if you haven't seen this and you want to go back and watch it, gradual change, like baby steps, taking it easy on yourself and your child and not making these huge changes overnight or stressing yourself out with perfection expectations, right? Going back to what's familiar, only focusing on naps and bedtime at first, responding in the night, following your heart. All of those things are really important to understand. So that's why I went over those 10 keys to successful sleep early on. Then my next episode was really wonderful. It was an interview with my friend Jenny, who shared her story about postpartum depression and anxiety. And she gave some of the most beautiful insight and the most beautiful advice. So if you haven't watched that, that's episode 4. Please go back and watch it. So today we're going to talk about security because it is the most important thing that parents can provide for their children, for their babies, besides those foundational elements like, food and cleanliness and sleep and the physical development we have to support. So this is just an idea, it's real, but it's an idea. Like, just keeping in mind in all that you do to take care of your child that you're building security because you're meeting your child's needs. You're there for them. Their world is safe. They understand that they don't have to be afraid of not getting something. Yes, there's babies out there that are intense and they're not going to learn this quickly, right? But they will learn that their needs are met. And that's a wonderful feeling for a child to have, especially for a baby. We want them to just relax and be at ease and at peace in their little world. And you're already teaching your child security. Every time that your child cries and you respond, when you're trying to figure out what those cries mean, whether it means a wet diaper, discomfort from a burp or gas, or they're hungry or they're tired, all of those things that you're tuning into, all those cues you're tuning into, and then responding in the way that they need, that is building security. So give yourself a pat on the back for doing that really vital thing. And I just want to tell you that sometimes when I'm telling people about security, they're hyper focused on getting this perfect. And you don't have to be, okay? Let me give you some examples. So it matters that you are 95% consistent with security. That doesn't sound right. So maybe I should say 99% because you spend a lifetime with your child, right? But the reason I say that is if you're in the shower or you're having a moment when you can't get to your child, say the water is boiling over and something's burning in the oven and someone's calling at the same time and your child has to cry for a minute because this is a stressful situation, it is not going to hurt anything or anyone, okay? Say your batteries die in your monitor. Maybe people don't use batteries anymore because of video, but things happen, maybe it gets unplugged. Moms definitely panic about things like that. Their child, as far as they know, slept through the night, but they're thinking, how much crying was there? What did I ignore? And it's just like, oh, you know, but this is not going to damage your child to have something like that happen. And most of the time, they will cry loud enough when, they need something, if that was to happen. Um, or here's another example. If your child is really being difficult, or maybe you have some struggles with like postpartum depression or anxiety, and you have very little patience, whether it's something going on with your child or something you're feeling, you feel frustrated and upset, and you have to walk away for 5 or 10 minutes while your child cries. Your child is not going to be damaged from that. Please understand that in a situation like that, it's way more important for you to calm down and feel that peace and have your mind working well enough that you have more self-control and uh, compassion for your child. That's way more important. So just remember that being responsive the rest of the time is really going to add up. Okay. Responsive parents teach their children to trust them, to relax. And like I said, not all babies know how to relax, but they will learn that their needs are going to be met over time. Okay. And babies who have their needs met have strong attachments to their caregivers. As children, adolescents, and adults, they learn to tolerate stress better. And yes, anxiety can be something that runs in the family, and it can be something that just happens. Honestly, I understand because I have a lot of anxiety in my family, and my kids' needs were met. So I'm not to blame for that. But I'm just happy that I set my children up to be stronger, more resilient by being responsive. Um, but on the other hand, if you think about a baby who's in a stressful situation a lot, maybe their needs aren't met. Like, you hear about children in orphanages or in countries where they're just not as nurturing and responsive to young children. These are the children that are studied that show us what happens when a negative outcome happens. So like just being triggered by stress uh, quickly, not having, like I said, that resiliency and just getting stressed out easily. I know people like that. I know kids like that. And, like I said, it could be hereditary, but let's just set up our kids to be stronger and to have less of those triggers and short fuses. Children who have their needs met have a better chance at having healthy social relationships and social behaviors in the future. And I can share the resources below this podcast episode if you want to learn more about these things. More than anything, these children who have their needs met feel like the world is safe and secure and peaceful. Being responsive helps babies and toddlers' brains develop optimally. It's very exciting stuff. So in my work, I don't really focus on what I don't like about Cry It Out or what I don't like about the other methods are a little bit more forceful because I understand that moms and dads get desperate. I understand that there's not that much education about these things. I understand that the typical response is use Cry It Out. Everybody, all the doctors, all the friends, everyone tells you to, right? So I don't ever want anyone to feel bad or sad or guilty. But it's really, really helpful to focus on those reasons that are beneficial. Okay. It just helps you feel more motivated and encouraged to go this route. And we'll keep talking about it in this podcast episode. So maybe by the time we're done, you'll be convinced that this is the best route for your child. Um, and that's really my goal is just to help more people understand the benefits of using non-crying responsive methods because I believe that they work for all types of temperaments and all children and that we can change the way that sleep is approached for little kids and little babies. So, what's good and helpful about approaching sleep with non-crying, peaceful, responsive, and patient methods? What do I like about them? I like Many things. And this is kind of going to go back to my episode 3 where I talk about how to follow my approach. So it's not just about security, it's also about my approach. I like that it takes the pressure off of parents and children to be responsive and more peaceful. It's not stressful to build sleep habits when you expect to have a good experience. A lot of moms are holding back, even though they're in my sleep group or my membership site or um, my online program. They're like, oh, when we get to that method, oh, I'm just stressed about it. And I'm like, you shouldn't be, because you're not going to have to do anything really hard. And it's not going to be upsetting. It's going to be a peaceful experience. And it's only going to last for a few minutes when you first start, because we're just trying to introduce it into your child's routine. It's not supposed to work. Okay. So it takes a lot of pressure off of you. Um, there's a lack of tension and fear and stress. So that's actually going to help your child progress. So that's really cool. It's more relaxing when you expect to use a new method for a few minutes and then let your baby fall asleep the old way. Like I said, that takes off the pressure of this has to work. I'm going to make sure this works today. Like that is just way too hard on both of you. Um, and the other thing that's good to know about my methods is that you increase the time from day to day. So it does build and it does phase out the old habits. It just takes a little bit of time. It's also not stressful to work on a new sleep routine or method if you don't have to worry about doing it through the night. So I focus on naps and bedtime because I feel like that is the time to build these skills and abilities and empower children. And in the night, they're cranky little monsters. They're needy. They want you and they want you now. It's not a good time to teach them. My my belief on this, I will talk about in a minute why it's okay to just respond in the night without teaching your child and stressing about that. It also feels great to be true to your heart and your child and responding to them with comfort, comforting them in the ways that feel right, that work in the nighttime. So that's another win. It feels right and patient and compassionate to let go of rules and the pressures of everybody else and the different sleep methods. And I mean, the books, the sleep groups, there's so much pressure there about rules and messing up your child. So I'm actually letting you let go of those things. And you're not going to be focused on forcing your child to sleep independently when you're ready. And that is going to feel peaceful and right as well. I mean, I understand that when a child's sleep turns awful, we get really desperate and we need it to be better now, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've created a monster. This is out of control. This is out of hand. But what's really going on is emotional needs. And some people don't believe me because they're like, well, my kid's been like this for 4 months straight. Well, with teething and learning physical skills and leaps that last for 4 to 6 weeks and happen every other month and sometimes last longer than that, and they're just ongoing, and those Wonder Weeks calendars don't work because children aren't textbooks. Yes, it can go on for 4 or 5 or 6 months with the sleep habits. Now, I know that sometimes kids also start bad habits during leaps, and that carries on for a few weeks, and then another one starts. So it's just kind of a tough cycle to break. So there should be some breaks. There should be some times in between once your child has some stronger skills, okay? It feels right and good to allow your child space to be held and loved on, especially when they're in pain or they're uncomfortable during teething or mental leaps. I think the problem is that people don't recognize that it's normal for children, babies, toddlers to wake up in the night and need comfort because of the things they're going through. There are definitely kids out there who just aren't sensitive and they don't wake up. I had kids like that. My kids woke up for teething, but I didn't even know that leaps existed. And that's almost embarrassing to admit because I feel so bad for you moms and dads. But that is why it gets confusing, because some kids just tolerate that stuff and they aren't affected by it. And then they're the ones telling you, oh, once you sleep train, they're supposed to sleep awesome the rest of their life. But that's not true, because you can't control what your child's feeling and their need for emotional support. And that's also very normal. Okay. So if we can expect that our children are going to keep waking up and needing that emotional comfort in the next few years, we're not going to be as disappointed and frustrated. And I think kids really need us to allow them that space. They really do. This is something that is really hard to get through to people. It's really hard to get through to my group members. It's really hard to get through to my clients. Like, we cannot cure the growth and development and the teething. It's going to keep happening. What I want is to help your child sleep deeper so that those periods are easier. And that should happen with some of the things we're going to talk about today. Okay. So, the hard part is that, so this is another hard part, is that we're so busy and distracted by technology a lot of times, or trying to juggle everything, trying to work, trying to manage our homes and our children, one or more, and relationships and all of the roles that we have, because moms are awesome multitaskers, right? We should be able to do it all. But we're so distracted and busy, and I'm this way too, that it's really hard to focus on our intuition and our child's needs. So that's another missing link. And it's actually a missing link for a lot of people. If you ever wonder why life coaching is so big right now, it's because people are really realizing how messed up they've gotten in self-control, in stress, in not following their dreams and not changing. And I promise you, I get it. I've had life coaches for the same reasons. And I was just talking to a woman the other day who was telling me that what people are missing is they're not slowing down and looking internally. They're not listening to their heart or their intuition. And that if we could work on that more, that we would live happier lives and we would get rid of all the stuff that stresses us out, or a lot of it. And so I actually understood and related to that because my clients are similar. You have so much external pressure on you from all of the resources and all the people and all the things you've read. And I guess it's also like some of it's your pressure that you put on yourself, that you really know you need sleep and you really want it now. You're putting pressure on your child too. I'm ready now. I need you to stop waking up now. So that all that stuff makes you totally tune out of your, it doesn't make sense, but tune out and away from your intuition and tune out of your child's needs and what's really going on. Okay. So in so many ways, I'm just trying to help you start to listen to your inner voice, start to sense more and care more, like I've had people say that they thought their kids were spoiled or acting out and stuff like that. And so I think that's hard to understand that babies and toddlers are doing the best they can and that they don't feel well when they act like little monsters and they don't know how to handle all the feelings and all the thoughts. They're little teeny people. They're not going to act like we are. They're not going to be able to figure out things or think things through like we are. And so it's just kind of a messy mix, isn't it? Grown-ups and little kids. It's a messy mix. So it's important to connect to our children and really accept that they have emotional needs and that when they're going through these times with development and leaps and teething and learning new skills and testing their boundaries and learning how to communicate and all of these things, that it's a lot for them and they need us and we're their little safe world. Okay, now I'm on a pedestal, so I'm going to stop. But um pedestal, I meant like platform preaching. Anyways, okay, so um just make sure that you're not super focused on everyone else's opinions and all those outside resources. Try to focus on your child and your heart that is connected to your child, and trust your intuition. um, that way you can give your child what they need and you can navigate motherhood more confidently. So we have to focus, tune in, heart to heart, push away our stress and anxiety and the need for sleep and the need for easy nights, and let go of those pictures of babies in angel wings, okay? They exist, but most likely you didn't get one. And I can relate. Actually, I had really easy babies and tough children slash teenagers. So whatever. People say it's a trade-off. I don't think I don't think there's such a thing as a trade-off. There's just real life, right? All right. So, I already said this. All babies and toddlers suffer during teething. Many babies and toddlers and young children struggle with their sleep and feel uncomfortable and wired during mental leaps. So, that's definitely going to affect their sleep. They depend on us. We're their parents and we have to be there to help them through this stuff, right? My adult and teen children, I have one more that's 12. It's going to be 13 soon. So, and my child, I get to say that for a couple more months. They all still depend on me to help them handle their emotional needs. And I'm actually a little bit emotional about that right now because it's been happening several times this week where my kids were stressed or anxious or worried or sad, and they came to me and they shared their feelings, and there was tears shed on both sides and hugs, and sometimes they're stressed and I put my arms around them and I hug them really tight because I know that they need that. So it doesn't end. Your children will always need you, and there's always going to be that connection, which is really special. The bond specifically between mother and child is a powerful thing. It's beautiful, but it's not always convenient. It can be exhausting. It can make you want to pull your hair out and cry. But the truth is, it's a gift. Your child has the ability to calm down when you hold them. Your daughter or your son has the ability to sleep when they're in your arms. That's a gift. If your child's teething and they can't sleep and then they can sleep in your arms, that's a gift. That's everything to your child. If they didn't have that connection and know that they could trust you to be there, what would they feel? I wouldn't want a different feeling, and we don't want our kids to feel a different feeling. Um, since you understand how important security is now, because I've been ranting and raving about it, let's talk about how to teach it, okay? So, what I want you to realize is that you've already taught security. You've already done an awesome job. Pat yourself on the back. And now let's talk about the next level. So, the next level is teaching your child to feel safe and secure when he or she is alone. That is a really hard thing to do for a lot of children. Kids have separation anxiety, don't ever want to be put down. There's more that we can cover with this about separation anxiety, and you can actually look online and try to get some ideas if you're impatient and you don't want to wait for me to teach you. But for now, we're going to really just talk about the security when they're alone, okay? But it starts out before that. It starts out with a desire to have your child like their bed, right? Some of you have kids who cry the second they hit go over the rails or touch the mattress, wake up right away. We want them to be okay sleeping alone. We want them to be okay going into their beds. We want them to feel okay going to sleep in their beds. We want them to feel okay going back to sleep at night. I know I'm getting a little bit carried away with the detail. You have to start with the bed and the room first, okay? Help your child feel safe and familiar in there. Don't try to overhaul this all at once. Be understanding and patient. Make it fun. Be creative. Follow your instincts. And remember the baby step rules. So just focus on making this a safe and familiar place, okay? Then this is going to be more about you. Teach your child the room and the bed are happy places to be. Protect the room and the bed as a happy place. It can't be a place where your child cries to sleep alone. Now, I say that tongue in cheek because kids with FOMO, like you really cannot control that they hate to go to sleep, fear of missing out. They just like sometimes it starts as a newborn. They cry on the way to their bed. It's insane. They cry when it's time to go to sleep. Now, in my work, I know that a lot of that can be avoided by tuning into different cues that are not necessarily predictable or typical. And really being mindful of your wake window, experimenting with that can help these FOMO kids not cry to sleep. But there is such a thing as kids who cry to release tension. And so if you know that your child starts out with like a normal cry and it gets softer and softer and they fall asleep, that's not the type of crying I'm talking about here. I want to help you understand that kids shouldn't feel distressed and scared when they're in their beds. And so we want to protect the room from feeling like that. It can't be a place where your child has timeout and tantrums. It can't be a place where the door is shut and they can't get out. Now, I understand sometimes you need to put a gate there. I've had a kid that was a nightmare when he was little with staying in his room. Oh, bad memories. Um, but we want to just make sure that that room doesn't feel scary. Okay. I'm not a big advocate for all kids protest cry, all kids cry. I'm not a big advocate for that because I really feel like there's things that we can do to prevent that from happening and really just make it a more peaceful, happy place. So you're focusing on this activity, this idea of keeping your child or having your child play in the room and spend time in there and just feel really familiar and comfortable in there. The room, the bed. And you'll notice that it's not that hard to protect the room and the crib or the cot or the bed as a happy place. It's just a shift in your thinking. It's a new goal. And just a little side note to help you understand why this matters. If my room or my bed was a place where I was left on my own, where I felt scared because I don't know that I'm safe and I'm not used to this, this isn't something that I'm good at yet, um, where I didn't like to be, or if I associated my bed or my room with a place where I was upset, I had to always fall asleep alone, and it was kind of more forced on me, I wouldn't want to sleep there. I wouldn't want to cooperate. I wouldn't want to fall asleep peacefully. And I wouldn't want to go back to sleep on my own at night. That sounds kind of scary, especially when I don't feel well. Like, that's just not going to happen. So it's all going to be more upsetting at night, just so you know, because we're going to have a shorter fuse, we're going to be grumpy, and we're going to be tired, and we're going to need more emotional support. So, kind of silly for me to compare myself to a baby or a child, but it just makes sense that if children don't have this ability to feel safe and at peace on their own, then why would they be an independent sleeper? Why would they sleep through the night on their own? Some people think that putting a child in the room will help them turn inward and they'll learn to self soothe. Well, in my experience, that is something a child has from a young age. I've talked about it in my first couple of episodes about temperament, how important this is. It's absolutely true. Some kids are just chill. Some kids are just at peace. They've got like this built-in security where nothing bothers them. And when they're tired, they just go to sleep. They don't cry because they're uncomfortable. They don't cry because they want to be held. They just go to sleep. So if your child's like that, then pretty much any method under the sun for teaching sleep habits is going to work. But my idea of teaching security to your child when he or she is alone is only going to cement permanent sleep habits. It's only going to deepen the quality of their sleep habits. And it's actually going to help even with teething, even with an easygoing child. Okay, so I just want to help parents know that this is super important and it's going to really make a difference. So the next thing to focus on is responding when your child calls you. So if your child calls you, and that doesn't have to be crying, it could just be some kind of whine or whimper or, whatever your kid does to show you that they want you. You don't have to rush unless that's what your child is used to. If your child is used to you rushing, then you're only going to build this longer really, really carefully, like waiting 10 or 20 or 30 seconds instead of rushing. Okay. So take your time, but build this up a little longer because we want to teach your child to wait for you. And side note, in the middle of the night, some kids wake themselves up all the way if you wait. Some kids get super intense if you wait. So that's not necessarily the time to teach this. Okay, maybe focus on naps or the daytime. I mean, there's things you can do, like being in another room while your child's sitting with dad, or they can crawl and they're trying to find you. I mean, you can get creative in teaching this. Okay, so you're teaching your child to wait, to trust you, and to know that they're safe. Okay, so this is how you teach children independent sleep skills without tears and without force. You work on security first, and you teach them to love their rooms and their beds. And this helps them learn to sleep deeply. It's how you help them to feel safe, secure, and at peace to connect sleep cycles on their own when they feel well. The more they feel this way, the deeper they'll sleep. And then regressions become easier because they're sleeping deeper and they're just at peace. That's really cool. They need more. I mean, they need to learn how to fall asleep on their own as well. It's just not something I'm covering today. So I want you to imagine your child in the future. She wakes up playing happy. You can hear her. She's in her bed playing. It's the morning time and you have a few extra minutes yourself. It's the end of a nap or maybe the middle of a nap and you leave her just to play and she falls back asleep and finishes her nap. This can happen in the middle of the night too. But in the morning, she's going to be happy to see you. She's not going to be crying and freaking out. And yeah, some people think this is normal. My clients' babies learn to wake up happy. When you go through your bedtime routine, she is actually eager to get into the crib to go to sleep. You've taught her to fall asleep on her own peacefully, so you're able to just kiss her cheek, kiss her forehead, rub her cheek, smile, and say goodnight. You go to the couch and you look at your little video monitor and you can watch her playing, rolling, talking. Then you notice her movements are slowing down and she falls asleep. Victory! This sounds like a dream, but it happens all the time in my work. Security and independence can be taught. You can't wave a magic wand and teach a child to handle his emotions suddenly. You can't teach your child to calm herself when she's hurt or sad or uncomfortable in the nighttime. This is learned over time. All babies and toddlers need time to develop that skill of regulating their emotions, okay? But you can create a sense of safety, security, and peace for your child. If anything's going to improve sleep for you, this is it. Build security. We can't control our children's needs, their development, or when they're going to need more support from us emotionally, but we can be there for them. We can be patient, understanding, supportive, loving, and this will help them turn into the best possible version of themselves in the future. So it's so worth it. And I mean, even the attachment between you and your child is just such a blessing. I hope you feel encouraged to do everything in your power to build security and allow your child to build sleep habits at their own pace, peacefully. That is one of my biggest messages I'm trying to send to you. You don't have to wait forever to try to improve sleep like some people believe, because not everybody knows about these non-crying methods and this peaceful way of teaching security. And that's really something that needs to be explored more. But the best way to go about this, giving your child that space, being more patient, is to be responsive and understanding and try to help them make these changes gradually. Keep your attitude and your heart positive and listen to episode 3 because it talks about all those, the way to use gradual change and phase things out. Just try to let go of your timetables because being a baby, being a little child is hard work. Thank goodness we only have to do it once. I mean, some of us would gladly go back, right? But luckily, we're only going to watch this time and do what we can to support these little people through. I hope you'll tune in again to my podcast. I'm looking forward to some podcast interviews that I'm recording very soon. They'll be released in the next few weeks. So make sure you watch for these episodes. And if you want to find out how you can learn from me about my non-crying methods, my responsive approach, and even more about building security, go to sweetslumbertime.com/services. There is even a free consult tab on my website, so you can set up a conversation with me to see how I can help. And I can't wait to talk to you and see you. So have a great week. Thank you for listening to the Sweet Slumber Podcast, the good, the bad, and the sleep deprived. If you enjoyed the show today, please take a moment to write a review, leave a rating, and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. This will also help more mothers find my show. Thanks for listening.